All right. So now we're going to tackle project 4. So you can see the pattern that is starting to form here. We're going to do a line drawing. Then you're going to take the same concept and you're going to repeat it, and you're going to put tone with a light source. Okay. So now I've got to deal with this, and I got to think about my whole scheme. All right. So let me take a look at this. I want to be quick about it. It's a game, right? So I'm going to turn around and do something like, look, this is going to be my light source, right? Here's my triangle of light, and I'm going to come at it something like that, right? Okay. So this is my angle of light. Yeah. Okay. This will inform how all of the objects that I'm looking at is going to get hit. All right. So now that I've determined that, I put that away. I can get in here, and right away I'm going in. So I'm doing the iPad thing. So I'm picking my values. So I'm going to create a little palette here, and then I'm going to black. Okay, so that's my situation. So I'm going to start by determining the light surfaces relative to that angle. So here I go, look. And quickly, right? Dropping that in there and getting this in here. Okay, so I'm looking at that angle. Everything here is getting hit. Now, look at how bold I'm being, right? Yeah, like everything here is getting hit. That might turn away right in there, right? Just as I'm coming in there, that might get a little darker. What am I gonna do here? So now I have got this interesting situation. I don't know that. Do I want to come right above it? Do I? Yeah, maybe. You know what? Let's do it. Yeah, and then I'll make it like that's coming out and it's going through, and then I'll go darker in here. So this side here has to get a hit. This is tilting away, so that's going to get a hit. And I'm here. What do we got over here? Yeah, I'm going to do a little dish thing underneath there. Sure, why not? Yeah, like that. This is going to be the opposite side. This in here, right up to there. Getting that. Right underneath here. It's getting the light tone. So I'm banging in all my light tones. You might get a little spillage there. This is a spherical form, so I'm hitting that side and I'm coming around. This is a cone. I'm coming this way. Get this side of the cube. You know what? I'm actually going to carry this through to the top there. Then here, angle of the light, right on top there. Here. On those spheres. Now this has got a little bit of a tilt there, so I'm gonna just bring it in here. Yeah. And inside there. Yeah. This is kind of going around like that. Go back in here, it'll get a light. There's light. Okay. this right over here. So now I'm looking downward. You know, it's so wild. Look at it, man. It's like one of those futuristic movie sets. Yeah, that is so cool. Get in there. Get that shaft there. Get that. Get that. Yeah, so I'm trying to twist around with the light. Get on top of there. Over there. Here. And I'm flying. You know, I'm just speed is God here. You know, get the gesture, get the energy, think the process through, master it, you know. Then you want to spend 10 years on a painting, that, you know, go ahead and see what you come up with, you know. But at the same time, you want to do a storyboard for somebody and make a couple of $1,000, you know. You can do that too, right? This is being a professional artist. Getting gigs, jobs, real jobs, and producing real work. Okay, so I kind of like where that is, right? Now I'm going to dig in for the shadow. Let's see what we come up with here. So I'm kind of getting on the outer edges here of the form. Here's tone in there. And I'm using my limestone. You know, it's such a great, like just a little pencil, you know, it's got the softness, but when I press hard, it gets really opaque. It's kind of nice. Come down that side in there. And what's cool here is you're seeing the decisions that I'm making in regards to the light and the shadow. But because I'm on my iPad and I'm using layers, I've got the line work, you know, sitting on top. So I'm putting in the tones, and the line work is showing you the inner geometry, okay? And watch, when we get closer to the end, I'm going to turn the layer off, and you'll just see the logic of the tonal values, right? And what they've done to the drawing. So cool. It amazes me, man. I'm so sort of enamored with the mystery of visual language and how we see and all of that kind of stuff. It just blows my mind. It just does. You know, even though, like, okay, you can explain it away, you know, with the simple, the geometry thing and all that kind of stuff, right? Yeah, it's true, but I don't know why. It just never stops to amaze me when you start playing around with it and just be creative, right? I mean, that's the other big part, is that the creativity, you know, is not in mastering these ideas. These are here to strengthen the logic and the effectiveness of your drawing in terms of communicating a concept, right? And this type of drawing is particularly sort of value to designers, art directors, illustrators, because you're drawing quickly and you're mastering, you know, the management of time along with the drawing. And so this becomes very valuable in terms of business, design, industrial design, right? Being able to create visions and ideas that people can start to understand. It's crazy, you know? And then we got this thing called the computer that just, you know, helps us in terms of the production side. You know, it doesn't do all things, right? There's some things that have to be done the old way. right? But in post-production, my God, the fact that I can put this on layers, and draw an idea out this quickly means we could drag it into an animation software, and we can sort of use that to make it move and change it and replicate it and send it around the world, to someone, some designer, some film director, somebody who's trying to create something, and they need, a solid, responsible, communicative design, production, drawing, something that looks realistic and works within the world, the universe that we live in, and it can be applied. That's what they're looking for. That's really the value in terms of applied arts and design, communication. I can illustrate a story, get a whole message across. You can draw something to the point where you can use it as a blueprint to build it, right? If I can imagine it, I can draw it. If I can draw it, it can be mapped. If it can be mapped, right? This is the whole XYZ axis, right? And why mastering it is important, because that allows you to map the drawing. And if you can map it, you can build it. It can be built. That's the thing that really blows me away, is the fact that can be the case. It's so crazy. From this two-dimensional reality, this could be then scaled, structured, and built. Wow. That's unreal. That's a whole other level. That's whole other level stuff. And it starts with drawing as ideation, generating ideas. So now I'm going to have some fun. I'm going to start putting in some silhouetted forms, okay? And watch how this sort of implies, right? It's like it's a kind of a flat now in behind everything, but it just implies even more depth. It just makes it feel like things are going further, deeper, right? So cool. The magic of drawing. Just makes you see things. Right? This is what I just always kind of had my imagination, captured my attention. I always just thought it was cool if you could draw things. I mean, how cool? Doesn't get any more interesting. But I always had that aspiration as a young kid. When I was in grade school, I used to love hanging out with the kids who loved to draw, and we would draw together. Oh man, I knew people that were so cool. There was a friend of mine named Boris. Him and his father used to build models, and so he knew things like about trains, about fighter planes, about transport trucks. It was just like blew my mind, right? And I used to watch the way he would go about his drawings. Okay, so now I'm going to move to the core shadow and start to push things a little bit, right? So look at what I do. Oh, you know what? Oh, I want to go darker. What is that? Yeah, Yeah, I'm gonna go darker there. I'm gonna push that a little bit. Actually, I'm gonna go here. Yeah, let's go here. Just get that happening. Yeah, when Boris would prepare to do a drawing, like for example, he could draw battleships from World War II, like everything, every gun, every station, every piece of something, that was related to the ship. He could draw it from his memory. He would do a front elevation of a World War II warship, and it would be perfect. It would just absolutely be stunningly perfect. And I would sit there in awe, my mouth just sort of, dropping, to the floor, like something else, right? So I learned, I would get into it and hang out with Boris, and we would draw, and I would learn to draw these ships. I'd never seen one, never built a model before, so it's not like I had any idea of it. But from his drawing, I could learn and see what the ship looked like, and learn about World War II warships and aircraft carriers, and fighter planes and so on and so forth, right? And this was very entertaining to me, very entertaining. So now I'm just going and I'm sort of putting in core shadow, and I'm just thinking there. Look, there's no light's going to get in between those cubes right there. That's all going to be cast shadow, right? So right in same thing here. Like this is going to project down, to here, and so somewhere in there's going to be a shadow right inside that bowl, and then right in here there's a cast shadow behind that cube. Underneath the pipe here, there's going to be a core shadow right in here, so right around there, some cast shadow in here, right underneath this pipe. So now I know that shadows are going to be there, okay? And I'm thinking the angle of the light. Remember this, right? My angle of light. And so everything that's opposite, right, behind those forms, I'm just dropping cast shadows. I'm not even, worrying about it too much, because I know that they're in the right place. And I've got the angle set up. See, like I can drop a cast shadow, and these create situations that make contrasts and strengthen the shapes and the forms. I'll put a shadow right through there. Everything will just kind of fall back. And put a shadow through here, like as if it's a glass cube. Like I'm just flying here, having fun. Right? Little cast shadow in there. This here, and got it right in the inner core. Let's just soften that so that there's a little bit more blend, okay? So this is what I'm going to do here, just to fly through it, and yeah, you see? I can get that, right? So I'm going to come down in here. So I'm going to treat this like there's some cast shadowing happening in here, right? Just to create some separation and some depth. I'll go back and reinstate that with some black. Okay, see? And here I'm gonna make this tube look like it's see-through. So I'm gonna bring my shadow right into the epicenter of it, right? And then I will rim it with some highlights. This cone, give it a little core shadow, blend it out, right? I'm not getting crazy here. You know, it's like it's not about refinement here. It's about vision, and you know that edging there, for example, that just makes that look little bolder. So I'm gonna bring in some darks in there, right? Look right through there, so that those cubes pop out, right? And you really start feeling like there's a lot, that there's a lot going on. But in fact, it's just implied, right? Like I'm making you think that by scale and various things like that, which is fine. That's what I'm trying to do. That's my job, right? I'm trying to make you feel like you're looking at a lot of stuff, you know? That's the deal. Yeah. It's amazing that human beings through this geometry figured out things like the wheel and curves and straights and so on, and it completely influenced our homes and dwellings, the buildings that we work in, vehicles, planes, boats, right? Understanding the relationship of these geometric forms to to reality, to space. It's crazy cool. All right. So you can see what I'm getting at here. I've created this sort of architectonic space, and I can keep manipulating it and its tone. So let's see here. Look at what I'm going to turn this off now. Look at that. Look at what's starting to happen. You know, it's breaking itself down. It's showing itself. So I'm going to go in here and sort of work these things a little more. Look, and get rid of that, and build in some of those tones, refine some of those tones in here. I want some of this. Yeah, some of this over here. This is that bowl, right? And then come in here on the edge, give it some cast shadowing. You can see that in this kind of loose, sort of drawn approach, I've left the highlights of the paper. Gives it some punch, right? That's okay. You know, I could be really anal and go in and sort of color everything, super tight. But there's actually an energy. There's a benefit, right? That in terms of what is starting to happen, and that's cool. So look, I'm going to reinforce the grid here, and that also is going to give you a heightened sense of objects and space. But I'm doing it softly. And I'm flying. You know, it's like we're moving, we're going fast, right? This is how, for example, why professional storyboard artists, they can do an entire movie, 100 frames in a day, and crash that out. I remember when I was working with Goodest Wolf Advertising, my very first job, in one night we did like 3 different campaigns. And I drew 3 different storyboards, right, to explore variation. 3 different, billboard campaigns, 3 different, magazine campaigns. All for the competition of one client. I couldn't believe that I actually managed to draw that much in one night. My entire expectation of myself completely changed that night. It was a sort of epiphany moment, like a transformation kind of moment, right? Because I had never worked that hard. My hand was like almost falling off. You know, I was like a zombie right after when we finished. We came out, my wife and my boss at the time, Inez Carter, painter, artist in Toronto. And we were going over to Fran's for breakfast. And we were just shell-shocked, you know? Because like we drew all night long. Crazy, right? So now I'm going to go back and I'm going to grab the black. And I'm going to move now to my favorite hard line, the Ninja. And I'm going to start isolating and tightening up some of these forms. Okay, I'll get a little bit more thickness there. Yeah. Right? Now this is graphic, you know, I'm not even being so, you know, that's all I kind of need. It'll get you that feel, that crispness. I think it's one of the reasons why it was used a lot in advertising. You know, all the layouts were always done with a hard liner, and I think that was to create, graphic clarity, make things look really crisp, right? And you can see why. Like I think not putting it in makes things very painterly. And I think that was, where the fine art world and the applied world were not on the same page in regards to what, drawing and painting should be or how it should look, right? In the applied arts, there was, a realism, for example, and so in the 20th century, most of the art was abstract. If you were doing anything that was sort of somewhat realistic, it was considered old and out of step with thinking. Ironically, of course, though, that there artists never pay any attention to that kind of nonsense, and they continued to create. And so there were realist artists and muralists and traditionalists, who just said nonsense. Good drawing, good painting constitutes an understanding of form and requires certain skill and so on and so forth, right? And that's the truth of it, So that all continued on. But these discussions used to be constant debate, In the end, the abstraction was a deconstructivist thing that we needed to do as a Western culture, because we need to understand the role of drawing in a world where you had photography, in a world now that we have computers. You know how often the conversation comes up about, is drawing even relevant anymore? And it's unreal, but it's there. And, I know where I stand. Show me someone who doesn't know how to draw, how to think in visual terms, and I'll show you someone who isn't a designer or an art director or a creative of some sort, especially in the visual mediums. So the same thing like with handwriting, with calligraphy, like, you've got to know the skill set, the tools, and work at mastering them. And then when you know the frameworks, then you can start experimenting and changing the rules. pushing things. And ultimately, the cool stuff, the interesting stuff, the dynamic stuff does cheat, right? I mean, we're fooling around here with two-dimensional space. It's not reality. I'm just making you feel like as if there's a lot of forms here, going on and existing, in this framework. But it's an illusion. It's just, black lines and gray tones scattered around. So now I'm going to go in and, I got time, so I'm going to go in and put a highlight in. So this is great because I get to restate the white line, right? So, see? And that little highlight lifts, right? I mean, I don't have to be like super anal about it, right? It just starts to lift, right? What I like about, kind of the way this is starting to shape up is that some of the forms are looking transparent, right? This is cool because it shows you what you can do with that. There's that edge of that bowl is right there. So and right in here, I'm gonna sort of give it a little highlight. Reinforce that ellipse. See, all of those little cleanup steps start to bring, and this will also, watch what happens here when I come across, down. Notice that I stopped there. That enhances the sensation. Here on the top of this disc, I'm gonna hit that with light, kind of let it come down the side and keep rolling that highlight to the front. I'm gonna highlight that up there again, bringing that up. That helps me, that contrast. Okay, so bring some of that highlight around, taper it as I'm coming around the corner, and now bring it right up the front side of that horn shape. Just let that overlap underneath and reinforce that pyramid. Cube that pyramid right in there, bringing that corner. Not too much on that side there because I want that to be in the shadow. I'm going to get a little bit of highlight here, reinforce that, reinforce this over here. And I'm managing my time. I don't want the highlight there. I'm going to fill this in. Fill that in there. Okay. So I'm looking to push things back. I'm getting rid of those highlights down in there. As a matter of fact, let's go hardcore black in there, so that it feels like it's coming from the depths. I got a little cast shadow underneath there. Now, see how that black now really pumps it up as I start putting in those shades, those tones. Especially in here in the background, right? Because this is where you can stay a little bit more abstract, and it actually creates the illusion of depth, which is actually a good thing. And you kind of feel like there's more there. And if you just play it right, it actually can feel that way. And that's a good thing, right? Because it gives that lift. So I'm going to make this horn now so you come forward, because that looks amazing in terms of the composition. I was thinking about that, going, what am I going to do there? And now I'm getting a bit of the cast shadow there on the pyramid. Crawl in there with some of the shadow. it just feels like there's so much going on there. I don't need these whites coming through. So I want to use them now to enhance contrasts. Right? And then it just feels like everything goes back into infinity. You know? And that's what I'm doing here. I'm sort of using this to sort of create this illusion that all of this stuff is going on here. And I'm just reinforcing edges, right? There's a shadow area there that I can take advantage of. Well, I take advantage of it. You know? Anything to sort of pop up something, you know, like this pipe, right? Now I'm running along the edge and giving everything a cast shadow there. So it separates. You know, now if I really want to get that anal about it, if I have time, right? If I have time, okay, look, I can go back and I can take something like the smudge tool, you know, or a pencil crayon, right? And I start fooling around with just a little bit of, you know, refinement, you know. Soften, playing a little bit, soften soft edges against hard edges, right? And I don't have to do it everywhere, right? This you can do with your crayons and your pencil crayons and so on and so forth, right? So look at that, right? You know, if I come in here, right, and I just play a little bit here by just softening that edge and dragging those things along. It creates the transitions, right? The light to darks. And it's not like everything has to be treated that way. In some respect, if you actually treated everything, it kind of gets sickly, you know. That was one of the things that modernist art sort of rejected or didn't particularly appreciate about classical training. You know, the polish, the obsession with reality or photorealism and so on. So painters and artists started opting for expressionism, energy, some abstraction. This is what I'm doing here. I'm sort of just, you know, by playing some of those edges, I'm enhancing the realism. And I'm not doing it all the way through. I'm just kind of doing it on the main objects in the front so that I get your attention. And it's something you can do with an iPad really easily. But of course, you know, you can do this this is what you do. You block in the markers. And what I'm doing now with the smudge tool, you know, you do that with the white. You do that with the white and the black pencil crayon, you know, or the crayons, right? Or you blend with the markers, like by the wet on wet, and you get the transitions. Right? And this starts to create that feeling that I'm doing right now, just softening some of the edges, you know, creating the illusion of depth by playing soft edges against hard, reinforcing some of them. You know, like I'm going to reinforce this edge here. So that just feels like it's some reflected light. Get this blending a little bit so it feels like a dome. Yeah, this is project 4. Created my lighting system. I followed it through from the angle of light. This is the best I could give you within the time that I did it. Now, you either hire me or you fire me. one way or the other. And that's what it's about. So let's take a look. Okay, I'm gonna pull just a little blend over here. But I'm having a good time. That's why I just keep going. It's like I do this all day long. I can do this forever. Whether I'm working on a painting or an illustration. It's having fun. There it is. Right? The whole illusion is happening. I'm going to go back and reinstate a couple of highlights. And here. Get that pure white. Let's see what we got here. Yeah, isn't that cool? Give it a little hit. Make you feel. You can also imply volume sometimes with just the fact that you use a directional line, and that's good enough. In the end now, what I'm doing is I'm building the surface, right, with the tonal values and to give you a sense of light. And I don't have to be precious about it. That's what a good artist just knows how to make that sing. Throw a few in behind there. There it is. All right. Let's just recap a little bit. Let's go back to that line drawing and put it on top. Look at that. There's the understructure. Remember this? I'm going to put this here together. Come on. Okay, so let's take that away. That is project 3. And then you repeat, draw a whole new page, and that's project 4. And that's what's due next week at the beginning of class. Have fun, get into it, get excited. You start getting a handle on this, and you're going to be able to create worlds and universes that your imagination won't even be able to keep up. Have fun. See you next week.